It started with a phone call, a chilling, desperate plea for help. The voice on the other end trembled with fear, barely above a whisper. And then, silence. Moments later, the line went dead. By the time authorities arrived, all that remained was a darkened house, an unlocked door, and an unanswered mystery. What happened to Lisa Thornton? And who was the last person she spoke to before vanishing into the night?
Lisa Thornton was a 28-year-old teacher from Denver, Colorado, known for her kindness and dedication. She spent her days shaping young minds and her nights volunteering at a local shelter. Friends describe her as bright, compassionate, and full of life, until one fateful evening changed everything. On the night of September 12th, Lisa made a panic call to 911. Her voice, barely audible, sent chills down the spine of the dispatcher. "He's here," she whispered. "Please hurry." But before she could say another word, the call abruptly ended. When officers arrived at her apartment minutes later, Lisa was gone. Lisa's apartment showed no signs of forced entry. The front door was ajar, the living room undisturbed. But in the bedroom, officers found her cell phone, screen cracked, as if it had been dropped in a moment of panic. The last number dialed, 911, the last message sent, an unfinished text to her best friend. "I think someone's in my apart." It ended mid-sentence. Her purse, keys, and car were untouched. It was as if she had vanished into thin air. But then came the most unsettling discovery, a single muddy footprint near the balcony door. Further investigation uncovered something even more disturbing. The security chain on the front door was ripped from a frame, and faint smudges, possibly fingerprints, were found on the bedroom window, suggesting forced entry, but without the usual signs of a struggle. Lisa had either known her attacker or had been caught completely off guard. Detectives worked tirelessly to piece together Lisa's last known movements. Neighbors reported hearing a muffled scream, but no one saw anything unusual. Security footage from the apartment complex showed Lisa arriving home at 8:42 p.m. But at 9:17 p.m., the timestamp of her 911 call, the cameras captured only an eerie stillness. The first person of interest was Lisa's ex-boyfriend, Mark Evans, who had a history of obsessive behavior. But Mark had an airtight alibi. He was across town, captured on multiple security cameras. So, who else would want to harm Lisa? Then, investigators uncovered something chilling. Lisa had recently confided in a co-worker about a disturbing encounter. A man she believed had been following her for weeks. She never got his name. She only referred to him as the Shadow. As police combed through Lisa's past, they uncovered an alarming discovery. 3 other women in the area had reported similar cases of being watched, stalked, and in one case, receiving a cryptic note that read, "You can't hide forever." Each of the reports had been dismissed due to lack of evidence. Now, detectives wondered if Lisa's disappearance was a culmination of something much larger. Weeks passed with no major leads, until an anonymous tip changed everything. A caller claimed they had seen Lisa that night, being forced into a dark SUV near her apartment. The description matched a vehicle linked to a man with a violent past, Daniel Crow, a former handyman at Lisa's school. Upon investigating Crow's background, authorities found a disturbing pattern. Several women had reported him for stalking, but none of the cases had ever led to an arrest. A former colleague described Crow as charming on the surface, but with something off about him. He had been fired from his last job due to inappropriate behavior with female employees. When detectives searched his property, they uncovered a chilling piece of evidence: Lisa's necklace, buried in his backyard. But that wasn't all. Hidden inside a locked shed, police discovered a collection of women's belongings, scarves, bracelets, and even handwritten notes that seemed to mock his victims. Lisa's disappearance was not an isolated case. It was part of a horrifying pattern. Confronted with the evidence, Crow initially denied everything. But then, in a whispered confession, he muttered she shouldn't have fought back. It was a final, damning piece of the puzzle. Lisa Thornton's case sent shockwaves through the community. Crow was arrested and charged with kidnapping and murder, though Lisa's body was never recovered. As the trial unfolded, prosecutors painted a chilling portrait of a predator who had operated in the shadows for years. The jury took only 6 hours to convict him, and he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. But for Lisa's family, justice was bittersweet. Without her body, they were left with unanswered questions. Where had Crow taken her? Could she still be out there waiting to be found? To this day, they continue to seek closure, hoping that one day they will finally bring her home. But the chilling phone call that night remains a haunting reminder. Sometimes, a desperate whisper in the dark is all that stands between life and a mystery that may never be solved.
If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more of the most daring, shocking, and mysterious crimes in history, make sure to subscribe to Crime Chronicles. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode of the world's most unbelievable true crime stories.